Hey, English learners! Welcome back to English Voice Podcast, the place where learning English feels simple, natural, and relaxed. I'm Elena.
And I'm Jax. We're really happy you're here with us today.
If you enjoy learning English with us, don't forget to follow or subscribe to English Voice Podcast and share it with someone who is learning English too. All right, let's jump into today's episode.
Elena, can I ask you something before we start?
Sure.
Have you ever been in the middle of giving someone advice or making a polite request or imagining how something might go differently and stopped for a moment thinking, should I say could or would or should, and then just picked one and hoped it felt right?
Oh, all the time. I remember being asked for advice once by a friend who was anxious about a job interview, and I started saying, you should prepare some examples, and then you could practice out loud, and it would also help to get a good night's sleep. And she thanked me, but afterwards I thought, I used 3 different words, and I am not entirely sure I could have explained why each one was the right choice. They all felt natural, but why?
And that feeling, knowing something sounds right without being able to explain why, is exactly where today's episode begins. Because could, would, and should all live in the same neighborhood of language. They are all modal verbs. They all deal with possibility, imagination, and the space between what is real and what is not quite real. But each one has its own specific role, its own personality, its own way of shaping what you say.
So today we are talking about 3 of the most useful and most commonly confused modal verbs in English: could, would, and should. Not the full grammar textbook version, the real conversation version, how they actually feel when you use them, what they communicate beyond just their literal meaning.
Because in real English conversations, these 3 words do not just carry information, they carry tone, they carry relationship, they carry how confident you are, how much you're advising versus suggesting, how much you're imagining versus planning, and feeling those differences is what makes your English sound truly natural.
Today, we have 3 ideas that will completely change the way you feel about could, would, and should in real conversations. And Jax, I think our listeners are really going to love the 3rd one.
The 3rd one is the one that stays with you. So please, stay with us all the way to the end. Let's begin with idea number 1.
Idea number 1. Could is the word of possibility and gentle suggestion. When you use could in conversation, you are opening a door, not pushing someone through it. You are saying, this is one option, this is one possibility, this might work, but you are leaving the other person completely free to decide.
Could you help me with this? You could try a different approach. We could go to that new restaurant tonight. She could take the earlier train. They could consider postponing the meeting. In all of these, could is offering possibilities, opening options. The tone is gentle, non-pressuring, exploratory. You are not saying, this must happen. You are saying, this might be worth considering.
And could is also the word of polite requests. Could you pass me the salt? Could I ask you something? Could we schedule a call for next week? Could is the softer version of can. It wraps the request in politeness, acknowledging that the other person has a choice.
Could also lives in the imagined world. If I could live anywhere, I would choose somewhere by the sea. If she could change one thing, she would choose more time. Could here is not about real ability, it is about imagined possibility.
I want to share something personal. The moment could truly clicked for me was when I noticed how often I used it with friends when I wanted to make a suggestion without feeling pushy. We could walk there instead of taking a bus. You could try telling him how you feel. We could just leave it until tomorrow. Each one is gentle. Each one says, here's an option if you want it. Could is generous like that. It offers without insisting.
So the personality of could is gentle, open and generous. It suggests without pushing, asks without demanding, imagines without insisting. Could always leaves room for the other person.
Okay, let's move to idea number 2. And this one introduces would, which is perhaps the most layered and most versatile of our 3 modal verbs today.
Idea number 2. Would is the word of the imagined, the polite, and the preferred. And those 3 uses together give would a richness and a range that makes it one of the most important words in English conversation.
Would for the imagined. This is would in conditional sentences, in hypothetical situations, in alternative worlds, in dreams and possibilities that are not currently real. If I had more time, I would travel more. If she knew the truth, she would feel differently. If things had gone differently, we would not be here. Would in these sentences does not describe something real. It describes what would happen in an imagined scenario. This is the would of dreams, plans, and what-if thinking.
Would for the polite. This is one of the most useful uses of would in everyday English conversation. Would makes requests softer, more respectful, more considerate. Would you be able to help me? I would like to make a reservation. Would you mind closing the window? Would you like a cup of tea? All of these wrap a request or a preference in warmth and consideration. Would you like is one of the most useful phrases in polite English. It offers without pressure. It asks without demanding.
And would for the preferred. I would rather stay home tonight. She would prefer to meet in person. I would love to come. These sentences feel warm and personal. Would here carry something close to longing, a genuine leaning towards something.
Would also carries repeated past actions, things you did regularly. When I was a child, I would spend every Sunday morning reading. She would always bring something to share. He would whistle while he worked. This would has a nostalgic, tender quality.
So the personality of would is layered, warm, and rich. It imagines alternatives, softens requests into invitations, expresses genuine preferences, and it remembers the past with tenderness.
And now, as promised, idea number 3, the one we have been building toward. Are you ready?
Tell them, Jax.
Idea number 3. Should is the word of advice, expectation, and quiet obligation. And what makes should so interesting and sometimes so tricky is that it carries a sense of what is right, what is correct, what is expected, not what must happen, but what ought to happen, what is the sensible, appropriate, advisable thing.
When you give advice with should, you are saying, in my view, this is the right or the wise course of action. You should get some rest. She should speak to someone about this. They should probably check the terms before they sign. These sentences carry a gentle authority, not a command, but a clear, caring recommendation. Should says, I believe this is the right thing to do.
This is what makes should different from could in advice situations. You could speak to your manager, opens a door gently. You should speak to your manager, steps through that door with a recommendation. Should has more weight, more conviction behind it.
Should is also used for expectations, things you think are likely to be true. The package should arrive tomorrow. She should be home by now. They should have received your email. In these sentences, should expresses a reasonable expectation, not advice, just what you believe has probably happened.
And shouldn't is one of the most important uses, the word of gentle warning. You shouldn't stay up so late. She shouldn't ignore this. Shouldn't says, I believe this is not the wise thing to do. Softer than must not, more a caring caution than a firm rule.
I want to tell you about a listener who wrote to us. Her name is Amara, and she wrote from Nigeria. You may remember Amara from our episode about educating yourself every day. She said she had been using should for almost every kind of advice and suggestion, without noticing that sometimes could would have been softer or would have been warmer.
She described telling a close friend who was going through a difficult time, "You should talk to someone, you should take a break, you should try to sleep more." And her friend had gently said afterwards, it felt a little like a lecture. And Amara was hurt because she had only meant to care. She had not meant to lecture, she had meant to help.
And that moment, kindness that arrived as pressure, care that felt like criticism, is one of the most painful mismatches. And it came entirely from one modal verb used where another would have felt gentler.
You could talk to someone, opens a door gently. You might want to get some rest, softer still. I would love to help you find someone good to speak to, warm and personal. Could and would, in those moments, carry care without weight. Should carries authority, even when that is not what you intend.
Amara tried something small. Whenever she wanted to give advice, she paused and asked herself, am I recommending firmly or opening a possibility gently? Firmly, should. Gently, could. Warmly and personally, would. Just that question changed how her advice was received.
She wrote to us a few weeks later and said, "A friend told me recently that talking to me felt like talking to someone who truly understood them. She said she had not been given advice, she had been given options. And the difference between those two things was the difference between feeling helped and feeling heard. She said it felt like a small door had quietly opened."
That story gives me chills every single time. So here is your permission. Use could when you want to gently open a door, to suggest, to offer, to give options without pressure. Use would when you want to imagine, to soften a request into an invitation, or to express a warm personal preference. And use should when you genuinely believe something is the right, wise, or advisable course of action, and you want to say so clearly and with care. Okay, let's take a gentle pause now and do our word tour. A calm, quiet walk through some of the words and phrases from today.
Just a few, slowly, so they settle into you.
First word, considerate. Thinking carefully about other people's feelings and giving them space to choose. Could is the most considerate of our three verbs. For example, he was always considerate in how he phrased things, never pressuring anyone. Considerate. Considerate.
Next word, hypothetical. Imagined, not real, based on a situation that is not currently true. Both could and would live in hypothetical space. For example, the discussion was hypothetical, but it helped them see the situation more clearly. Hypothetical. Hypothetical.
Next word, recommendation. Advice about the best course of action. Should is the word of recommendations. For example, her recommendation was clear and thoughtful, and everyone took it seriously. Recommendation. Recommendation.
Next word, conviction. A firmly held belief. When you use should, there is quiet conviction behind it. For example, she spoke with such conviction that nobody in the room could easily disagree. Conviction. Conviction.
Next word, preference. A leaning toward one thing over another. Would is the word of preferences. Would rather, would prefer, would love. For example, she had a clear preference for small, quiet gatherings over large, noisy ones. Preference. Preference.
And our last word, caution. A gentle warning, advice to be careful. Shouldn't expresses caution. For example, she offered her caution quietly, without making anyone feel foolish. Caution. Caution.
6 words today. Considerate, hypothetical, recommendation, conviction, preference, and caution. Try to use one of them this week, even in your head, even in a sentence you write before you sleep, because a word you use is a word you keep.
And a word you only hear passes through you like wind, but a word you feel, a word you connect to a real moment in your life, that word becomes yours forever.
Okay, now it is your turn, and this is our favorite part of every episode.
Yes, because now the conversation belongs to you.
Here is your challenge. Think of 3 things you want to communicate to someone. 1 gentle suggestion, an option without pressure, 1 warm personal preference or imagined wish, and 1 thing you genuinely believe is the right or wise course of action, and you want to say so clearly and with care.
Write 1 sentence for each. Use could for the gentle open suggestion, use would for the warm personal preference or imagined wish, and use should for the clear, caring recommendation. And notice how the tone and the relationship in each sentence shifts as the word changes.
For example, we could take a different route tomorrow if you want to see more of the city. I would love to spend a whole afternoon somewhere quiet with nothing planned and nowhere to be. And I think you should tell her how you really feel before too much more time passes.
Or you could try writing it down first before you say it out loud. Sometimes that helps. I would rather have 1 long, meaningful conversation than 10 short ones. And honestly, you should stop being so hard on yourself. You are doing better than you think.
That last sentence, you should stop being so hard on yourself. There is such care in that should. And notice how different it feels from you could be kinder to yourself, which is gentler, more of an option. The should says, I believe this. This matters. I am telling you this because I mean it.
So please write your 3 sentences in the comments. Make them real. Make them honest. And notice the feeling behind each modal verb as you choose it.
And know this, when you write your comment, you are not just practicing grammar. You are practicing the art of using language with care, of choosing the word that carries exactly the right amount of weight for the moment and the relationship. And that is one of the most important things language can do.
And your sentences might be exactly what another learner needs today. Someone who has been using should for everything and feeling that their advice sometimes lands too heavily. And then they read your could sentence and think, oh, there is a gentler way, and it's right here.
1 honest sentence gives permission to 100 quiet hearts.
Before we close today, thank you for listening all the way to this moment. That is not a small thing.
And to anyone who has ever given advice that felt like a lecture without meaning to, now you have the 3 tones. Could for the open door, would for the warm preference, should for the caring conviction. Use the one that matches the moment and the person in front of you.
Could for the gentle possibility, would for the warm imagining, should for the caring conviction. 3 words, 3 tones, 3 completely different ways of being present in a conversation. All yours now.
Language that carries the right tone is language that truly connects.
If this episode helped you even a little, please give it a like. Subscribe to English Voice Podcast and share it with someone who needs to hear this today. Your support helps this little podcast reach more learners, and every new listener is one more person who feels a little less alone in this journey.
Until next time, take care of your English and take care of yourselves. This was English Voice Podcast. I'm Alina.
And I'm Jax. We will see you in the next episode. Bye, everyone.